Thank you all for joining. Would like to introduce myself. My name is John, and I am a gap year consultant here at EF Gap Year. Um, I am so excited for both Elizabeth and Kate to have joined us here tonight to share their experiences sending their children on our programs. This parent panel will be Q&A style, all about the gap year experience from pre-departure to return. And so we're going to be talking about things like gap year perceptions and how their students were impacted by this experience. But before we really dive into that discussion, I want to also give some context to everyone here because I know we have a wide range of people who are learning about these programs for the very first time, or people who are right before that decision-making process, ready to decide on their program. So because of that, I just want to give everyone some equal level understanding of who we are. So to begin, just we'll tell you a little bit more about EF. EF stands for Education First. That's the first question I always get, and so I just want to make sure I clear that up. EF is the world leader in educational travel. Been doing this for about 60 years now, and in that time have sent millions of people all over the world, seeing new places, learning new languages, experiencing new cultures, and also just learning new things about themselves. Most often people know us from our educational tours. Typically, if you have sent your child or have personally went on a 8th grade field trip to Washington, D.C., or any kind of high school spring break educational trip or a college educational trip, more than likely that was us. So I always just like to give that context because we really do send hundreds of thousands of students every single year on these educational travel programs. I always like sharing this map as well because I think it really gives a good understanding of EF's presence. There are over 50,000 EF staff members in over 600 offices in 114 countries all around the world. And so, again, in that time, we have sent millions of students all over the world. And when it comes to EF Gap Year specifically, I know everyone are here for different reasons, and also their children have different reasons that they're coming here as well. I myself did this program, and the reasons I did it look differently than the reason Kate and Elizabeth's children did this as well. But I think it's super important for all of us to be here just to get a good understanding of what kind of student our GAP students tend to be. So at this point in time, I know that you all can definitely understand that that 17, 18 college age years induce a lot of pressure on this younger generation, and it really represents a real inflection point at their point of their life. Feels like for the most part, the past 10 to 15 years could probably feel like this educational conveyor belt or treadmill that really has never slowed down. And then they are staring down at the next phase of their life, whether that be college, university, a job, grad school, whatever it may be. And also, along with that, the cost and pressure and expectations of really making the next few years count. This is really the final stretch here. So definitely want to make sure we all know that we understand that the stakes are high, and understandably so, many of the students who we see on our programs are in need of this pause to really reflect on where they've been and where they want to go from here. And I also want to just share that that's really why we built these programs here at EF Gap Year, because we understand that what it takes to feel confident and successful in the world of ambiguity just looks a little bit different now than how it did a little bit while ago. We really want to help students build that confidence, find their path, and just prepare them to thrive in today's ever-changing world by immersing them in new cultures or forging those new experiences, discovering more about themselves, finding the comfort in the uncomfortable as well. All those pieces as well really, I think, gives a good understanding of why we constructed these programs in particular. So I also want to start with the different lengths of program options that we have here. So these are the two we have at EF. We have a variety of semester programs along with the EF Gap Year program as well. And as we'll discuss in a moment, we run these programs in several different regions all around the world, each with different themes and focuses and formats. We really, as Gap Year consultants, are here to work with both students and families to better understand what the right fit program is for you. I also want you to keep in mind that regardless of whichever EF Gap program you enroll on, here are all the pieces that are included, all of those flights and transportation, all the activities, excursions, the accommodations, a select amount of meals, as well as the 24/7 EF global support and the mentorship piece. So I want to zoom in on those two pieces as well, because this is really the good structure of how our programs are constructed. So your student would be traveling in a group of around 20 to 25 other travelers. That is their cohort. They're going to be, those are like the intimate group of people that they'll be traveling with from start to finish. And these are the people that you, as you travel the world together, you make those lifelong memories and those long lasting bonds. I actually just connected with two friends from my gap year just last night as well. So again, these are really powerful experiences that you have with the fellow students. Now, embedded within that group of 2025 is also an EF tour director and an EF student life coordinator. Essentially, in terms of the organizational hierarchy, the tour director is really the main person in charge, handling the operational day-to-day of the program, keeping account of all the students, shuttling them from one location to the next. Where the student life coordinator is someone I like to compare as almost an RA, if you're familiar with that, how they operate in a college dorm. Someone a little bit younger in age with the students, able to kind of relate to them and connect with them on a deeper, interpersonal level. Also mitigate any group dynamics or anything that may be going on as well. You also have your EF Gap Year Advisor. These are people who are operated all across North American time zones who have daily access to that tour director and that student life coordinator as well. So as we'll get into this later on the panel as well, I myself, when I was a student, wasn't the most communicative person to my own mom, much to her dismay, but she was able to go directly to the Gap Year Advisor just to get check-ins on how I was doing. And again, not to steal too much of the show there, but that is essentially how the Gap Year Advisor works as well. So now when it comes to the gap semester programs in particular, these programs are built around the academic year with departures in the fall time and in the springtime, so September and February. And these are great for students who might be deferring a semester of college or graduating early, or just want to take a break before, during, or after their college experience. We also see a lot of students who are admitted into the spring semester for their college, also opting to do a fall gap semester program with us as well. So now here are three of our semester programs that we are running. And again, these are all built around what we like to call guided exploration as well as cultural immersion. So I'll first explain how the Changemaker looks. With the Changemaker, you're really going to be adventuring your way across Latin America and their diverse ecosystems, really working with local communities, putting that sustainability in action. And we'll hear a little bit more about that later on. The Pathfinder, I would say, is probably the other end of the spectrum, where it really pulls together themes around environmental science, history, business, culture, while visiting over a half dozen countries across Europe as well. The Voyager actually fits in pretty nicely right in the middle of these two programs as well, where you get a deep dive of that cultural immersion piece like the Pathfinder, but also you get to take part in some meaningful service activities like you do on the Changemaker as well. And I always know a huge highlight of the Voyager is you get to work on an elephant sanctuary when you're in Japan, which is always a highlight of the program. We also have very unique study abroad programs, which we call our first semester abroad programs. And we partner with some of the world's top colleges and universities to actually facilitate these culturally immersive semester experiences that look a little bit different than the three programs that I just spoke to you about. And I say that because here are the two programs that we are running, the Mosaic of Spain program and the Global Challenge Semester program. And what's pretty unique about these two programs is that we actually sat down with the professors of these universities and work to create an itinerary that is meant to reflect a specific curriculum in each one of these locations that we're traveling to. So you're actually going to be spending some time in the classroom with professors and a lecturer and other classmates, but then also an equal amount of time out in the field, kind of bringing to life the pieces that you learned while in the classroom. And lastly, I also just want to touch on our signature 23-week full EF gap year program. And this program in particular is divided into two semesters as well. It's a full academic year, not 52 weeks abroad. So it starts with your fall semester. then a winter break right in the middle, and then the spring semester. The first semester is all really about that guided exploration and cultural immersion piece. So as you can see here, this is the rough itinerary of the first semester of the gap year. They traverse across 3 continents, 8 countries, and 12 different cities. So again, a very immersive, dynamic experience. The first 6 weeks are spent in Europe. Then the next 3 weeks are spent in Australia. The following 3 weeks are spent in Thailand. Again, doing activities that are really reflective of the locations that you're traveling in. And then there is a winter break in the very middle. And then semester 2 is actually a little bit more customizable, where you get to choose between doing an international internship or do an immersive language learning semester. I personally opted in for doing the language immersion semester in Rome. Again, we can talk a little bit more about that later on. But again, these are all great opportunities. And I really would encourage you all, if you haven't already, to connect with your gap year consultant, because again, this is a very rough overview of all of our programs. Again, we're really here for our 2 parents here this evening, but this is how everything kind of breaks down. There is an informational session that we are hosting tomorrow night as well at 7 p.m. Eastern, kind of diving a little bit more into the specifics on these programs here. But again, tonight is for our special guests. So without further ado, I'd like to welcome both Elizabeth and Kate to join. Elizabeth, maybe I think I just would like to start with you. Would you mind just
Sure.
sharing a little bit about who you are, where you're coming from tonight, and a little overview of what Jim did on his gap?
Yeah, sure. Hi, everyone. My name's Elizabeth, and I live in Newton, Massachusetts. My son Jim graduated from high school uh, in 2023, and he was really pretty sure during his whole senior year, even while we were applying to colleges, that he wanted to take a gap year, kind of like what you were talking about, John. Just it had been a lot of work, and he really wanted to kind of just take a break and process and travel. He really was very interested in traveling, seeing the world. He hadn't done a lot of it himself. And so, we did look at a few different programs. What we uh, ended up doing with Jim is he actually took, as you see on the screen there, the Sustainable Development month-long program in the fall of 2023, which was 4 weeks, which was really a great way to kind of like get off the ground with it. He was very interested in Latin America, and he loved this program, and we loved it too. We felt very confident in EF. We felt like he was doing a variety of service work as well as just having this really great experience with other kids in his age in the same boat that he was in. So it was really wonderful. He came home from that. He wanted to do something else. He had a whole year in front of him. He was working a little bit here and there, but to make it really worthwhile, we considered a different program, which he would have gone and lived with a host family in Ecuador for 15 weeks and kind of just been with them. We considered that, but honestly, we really just came back to EF simply because it's got such great support around it, and that was really important to us. And even during his trip, we really experienced that, not only from the I think she's the gap year advisor. I don't remember the titles for each one, but she was just wonderful, kind of, guiding him through it. I was able to reach out to her while he was doing in the spring, he ended up doing the change maker program rather in the spring of 2024 for 10 weeks. So he went off on this program, and just to give a quick little, his grandfather passed away, which is a sad thing, right? It was upsetting. And I was able to reach out to May, and uh, she immediately, I got like an out of office reply, but she replied immediately, like she was on it. And it was a Friday afternoon, and she got in touch with his tour director, and that person, spoke to Jim, and there was like a lot of support from the kids around him. And we of course got on the phone with Jim as well. And we worked through a lot of stuff with this, but the point is that they're really there for you, and they're there to support, your child as well in so many ways. He had an amazing time. I don't want to talk too much. It was a great experience for him. Just really increased his confidence. He's so ready to go off to college now.
Elizabeth, thank
Really,
you so much. There's so
yeah.
much in that we'll dive into as well. Excited to hear a little bit more about that. Also want to pass it over to Kate as well, if my slide wants to work. Kate, do you mind just kind of answering the same kind of questions, where you're coming from tonight and the program that Amelia did?
Sure. So we're also from Massachusetts, and Amelia also graduated from high school in a year ago. And she had had a pretty rigorous academic time in high school, and she knew she was going to be going into the same kind of rigorous academic for college. And I think she just needed to have a brain break and use her brain in a different way before she kind of dove into engineering. I think the seed may have been planted a little bit. There was someone we knew from our town who did a EF gap year. So the year she was a senior, that girl was doing her gap year, and we kind of reached out to the parents and talked about that girl's experience, and it had been a positive experience for her. So then it was kind of like April of last year where she kind of really expressed her desire to defer for a semester before she started school. So we kind of I reached out to somebody I knew that worked at a local college who is in charge of the study abroad program for that college. And that person kind of gave me steps that Amelia should ask the school that she was going to be going into in terms of being able to start in January, and whether she would be able to use her AP credits. And so she kind of went along that path. And then when she was deciding which program she wanted to do, she decided on the Voyager program because I think it was an opportunity to really go to the other side of the world. That here in Massachusetts, going to Europe is the same distance as going to California. And so having that opportunity to explore a couple of countries in Asia, and Australia and New Zealand were just very appealing to her. It turned out to be a great experience. She came back ready to dive into school, and she had a great first semester, and she's already seen a couple of friends from her tour. One of her friends came up from Dallas when she was home in March for spring break, and she met somebody down in New York, and she's seen a couple of other kids that are in school here in Boston. So just an overall great experience for her. So
Amazing, Kate. Thank
that's
you.
it.
Also, I'm going to stop sharing my screen just so we can all see each other as well. I feel like that would be helpful. I just want to take it back a little bit. So again, just to reiterate, I did this program myself, and I remember when I was first, approaching this idea, I personally felt a little bit scared because it's something that, a large percentage of the population like doesn't have the opportunity to do. So really thinking about what a gap year was and if this even felt right for me was a little bit daunting. Luckily, I had maybe a little bit more support from my mom. My dad wasn't so easily convinced as well. So just want to maybe, Kate, I'll start with you and toss it to Elizabeth. Can you tell me a little bit what your first thoughts were when maybe you presented this idea to Amelia, or if she presented it to you, like how that conversation went?
I can jump in here.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, this is something that Jim was actually saying to us during his senior year as we were doing applications. Uh, you know, he knew kids, I think, from high school that had done gap years. They were becoming, something that he was hearing about, and he really loved the idea of taking a gap year and said, he'd really like to travel somewhere, maybe do a service project. He um, uh, didn't know specifically which one. So we kind of asked around. I guess this was me he was talking to initially about it. And like I said, we did have a couple of other ones that we were thinking about, but I'm so glad we picked this one. And I was on this end of it, where I was coming into webinars and I was listening to the various, presentations and things like that. And it kind of happened like that. There was definitely, like you say, some nervousness about it, because you're sending them off into this big wide world, and you know I just think that that EF is so organized. There just felt that 4-week program that we did in the fall was so well organized. It really made it an easy decision for the spring to do the change maker program for 10 weeks. And it really was, Jim even said it surpassed the 4-week one. It just was, because it's just, you're just bonding and you're together so much longer. I can't say enough good things about it, really. If anyone wants to talk to me a little more about it, I'm happy to, actually. So
Love that, Elizabeth. Thank you. Kate, want to make sure the audio is working?
I'm back.
Okay, there you are.
I was gone, but now I'm back. So sorry, my computer froze. So sorry about that.
I'll repeat
So
the
I'm
question for
sorry.
you as
Yeah.
well. I was saying, when I first was in your children's shoes, talking about this with my own mom and my own dad as well, there were a lot of nerves that I personally felt, that I know my parents felt as well. Just curious to see like how you navigated that conversation with Amelia. Did she bring this up to you? Did you bring it up to her? What were you guys feeling?
So she brought it up to us, and it was coming time where she needed to make the decision of where she was going to go to school. And it just seemed it was weighing very heavily on her to make that final call. Where was it going to be that I'm going? And so, we were out at dinner one night, and all of a sudden she just said, I think I want to defer for a semester. And we were kind of like, okay. And we said, well, what did you have as an idea? And then she said, well, and she is definitely a type of kid who is comes with a plan. And she said, well, this is the program I've been looking into. This is the company. We were familiar with EF tours because of the school trips at her own high school use EF tours for their for the week-long spring breaks. And so then we just kind of did a little investigating and went from there.
Awesome. I'm curious to hear, like, in this decision-making time, I know also, like, there are probably a lot of senior families on this call right now, going through graduation and prom and the senior week and all those like good, lovely events towards the year. I'm only bringing that up because I remember as well when I was in that position, seeing all my other friends, my social sphere go off to college, and I wasn't, doing that. There were some emotions I felt. Just curious, maybe Kate, start with you, Elizabeth. We'll throw it back to you after, in terms of like how your children navigated those emotions, if they had those at all.
I think when it was getting a little closer and people were starting to go off to school, she was kind of like, okay, I'm really doing this. But I would say the positive thing was, when she left, it was basically the same time, almost the same time that when she would have been going to school. And then she was kind of home by Thanksgiving. So you kind of got to see, those friends at Thanksgiving, and kind of been like, so what have you been up to, sort of thing. And she had kept it outside her like close circle of friends. She'd kind of kept it on the down low that that's what she was going to be doing. So I of course was telling everybody that's what she was doing, because I thought it was so cool. But she really managed just the experience. She was really good about taking the advice that she was given by EF Tours in terms of packing, in terms of thinking about clothing and footwear and all that, and kind of taking that part of the experience pretty seriously. So yeah.
Appreciate that, Kate. Elizabeth, anything you would add to that in terms of how Jim felt, through his senior year with, maybe, his social sphere, maybe having done a gap year or maybe probably not doing a gap year?
Yeah, I mean, Jim, he got accepted to the University of San Francisco, and we went out and visited it. This was during his senior year. And we weren't even sure then because, he kept saying he wanted a gap year, but we thought when he sees it, maybe he's going to say, you know what, I just want to go. And he went out there and he loved it. And he said, I really want to go, but I want to go in a year. Like he really was clear about it. And so when people started going away, though, you're right, there is that reality like, wait a minute, my friends are all peeling off and going places. That's why it was nice to have the fall program because he had this thing to go and do. So that can be a little bit of a thing that other people are going away, but you go away and you do something amazing yourself. And then he came home and he worked, which was also part of what he wanted to do, earn some money, and then he went off on this amazing 10-week program in the spring, which really he feels like it was just exactly the right thing for him. I have had, people getting together with him, friends of mine just recently since he's been home, and they saw him like a year ago, and they just say, wow, his confidence level, his way of communicating, he has really grown so much in this gap year. And it's really true. I see it, and I feel like he knew that he wanted that, and it made a big difference to him. So yeah, it was definitely the right decision.
Love that, Elizabeth. Also, to your point on kind of, the friends going off and making those, comparisons, whether you want to or not. I remember doing that as well, in my shoes, because I had, I think the fall departure leaves a couple of weeks after typical, colleges depart. So while all my friends were having, that like syllabus week or whatever you call it, the first week of college, but then after that, they're doing essays and homeworks and classes and things where you're on this immersive program. And that like pretty quickly the energy shifted when I was going on this program. Not sure if you guys relate to that, but
Mhm.
just an additional piece there.
Yeah.
Another piece I wanted to touch on, Elizabeth, maybe we'll start with you and then transition back to Kate, in terms of like the college experience, because now it seems Jim and Amelia both have had kind of the time to acclimate back from the program into the United States, and seeing their peers who haven't had this experience. Do they mention what that feels like in terms of maybe one, the college experience, but also the social piece as well, and maybe how that feels different, if that?
Well, I like I said, I feel like Jim socially just grew so much more in his confidence. I think having this great experience with the gap year group, you said the 25 kids. I mean, he really did bond with this group on Changemaker. He really has said that he did, and I can tell. And I think that, and as you mentioned, there's like someone almost like an RA. So there's a real lot of group and facilitation to encourage a great group experience. You don't just sort of throw them together and hope it all works out. It really is kind of tailored to work that way, and it can be just so amazing. So I feel like he feels so much more confident and ready to start school. I haven't noticed like a difference with other people that didn't do that. I don't know, but I mean, he's got his pals who went to school, and is what it is. But he's really, really happy he did it the way he's doing it. Yeah.
Appreciate that, Elizabeth. Kate, anything you would add to that piece?
I would say for Amelia, for her, any sort of travel mishap, a long flight, any of that does not, it will never phase her for the rest of her life. Like they had, it was a little bit of a hiccup trying to get to Australia. And there were a group of 8 of them that were starting on this adventure, and ended up in Australia a day later than planned. But they had to navigate like their flights being changed, and somebody lost their wallet and somebody's luggage didn't end up, and so they got to Australia and people were loaning other people like t-shirts and things, and learning how to navigate getting around big cities on your own. That Tokyo and Osaka make New York City look like a cow town. So Amelia went off in Tokyo by herself for one day and just went to a neighborhood she wanted to go to, everybody else was going to Tokyo Disneyland. She did not want to do that. So she went off in Tokyo. They had a free day. She also learned how to manage, you had to be able to, you had to make time to do laundry. You had to make time to give yourself a little bit of downtime here and there because you are moving around a lot. So you do need to be able to be nimble in terms of, getting up and going, and, and other people are counting on you to be there and be on time, and Amelia would try any food at least once. And she may never have tried it again, but she would always try something at least once. And just culturally, just seeing, Thailand, I think, was a big eye opener for her, for sure. She loved Japan. It was just different. It was exciting. There were some familiarity things with it. But she, and then when she came home, she had about 6 or 7 weeks before she went to college. So she had time to let it absorb into her a little bit. So by the time January came, she was like, okay, I'm ready to go to college. Like, I'm ready to go now. And let's go, and let's get this. I'm ready to start moving on with this next chapter. So, yeah.
It's funny you mentioned that, because I also remember as well, like, having done this gap year program, college felt a little bit like a piece of cake, because if I could travel the world and meet people from, first within my group all over the United States, different backgrounds, and then meet people from actually all over the world and seeing how they were handling, like, comparing that just to a college experience, I felt like felt like a launching pad, almost like an accelerant to just to having that college experience, which is, again, with both of you are saying about both Amelia and Jim.
I think you learn a lot about yourself, for sure.
Yeah.
You learn a lot about yourself and what you're capable of by, it makes you, you have to figure stuff out. It's just the way it is, you have that support near you, but, that day that Amelia was in Tokyo by herself, she got on the train and went in the wrong direction from her hotel. And so she ended up in another part of Tokyo. So she got off the train. She said, I went to a cafe, I got myself a cup of tea, and I sat down and I figured it out. And then I went back and everything was fine. So, it's, you just have to, you learn how to adapt and know that, you do have support around you, but you are doing a lot of things on your own too, in unfamiliar territory too. So.
Definitely. Elizabeth, were you going to add something to that as well?
Well, I was actually just thinking about how, you're right. You just have to get used to, like, sort of unexpected things coming up. And I know, like, I already told one little story, but Jim had this other thing happen where he had his wisdom tooth started erupting when he was in the Dominican, and he got to Peru and it came through. It was causing a lot of pain. And we were thinking, oh my gosh, how are you going to do this? You're about to, like, go into the mountains and ascend Machu Picchu, and you've got your wisdom tooth erupting. So again, I was going to say, the thing that's so nice about EF is that I was just so immediately, like, in touch with I think it was his program director, Aaron, and EF just the area, they know people, they knew a dental person who they'd had a similar issue with a different person on a trip like a year earlier. And they took him to this person in this town, and they were able to actually just remove it, believe it or not. And by the way, dental work is incredibly inexpensive in Peru. Did people know this? Apparently this is a thing. It was like but the point is that they were very, very in touch with me about what was going on. And I felt he was really surrounded by people. The person who, spoke the language took him there. I guess it was his tour guide who was on the ground there in Peru. But you're right. I mean, things come up. He wasn't the only one who had this. There are things coming up all the time. And yeah, you do learn to handle them yourself, but as a parent, that when your kid's so far away from you and something comes up, you really want to know as well that there is this support around them that's going to be able to kind of rally and kind of make that okay, because they're only, 18 or 19 or however old they are. But you're right, and they do learn, you know, as Kate was saying, just so much about themselves because they have to face these, you know, situations. They get some assistance through it, but they do it and they do well, and they come out feeling so much more confident, and they've learned so much just about the world and, you know, the way things work in different parts of the world, and you know, it's incredibly broadening.
Another piece I was curious to just hear both of your pieces on. I remember like within the first couple weeks of my own, the first semester, having gone on a program like this, I hadn't had experience doing something like this in the past, which I guess most students on this program pretty much don't. But were a lot of emotions I was definitely trying to navigate. Kate, you alluded to the fact where this is a very dynamic program as well, where you're getting up and you're going. You have that free time where you can rest and recover a little bit, but it does feel like it could catch up to you at some points. And I
Mhm.
remember like one story. I was like FaceTiming my mom, and she just asked me like a simple question of, how you doing, sweetie? And for some reason, when she said that to me, it really caught me at like the time I needed it the most. And I said, Mom, you know what? I think I need a second right now. Like, kind of had to let my tears out in the shower. Not to release all my inner emotions to you all, but just curious on like that homesickness piece, like how you navigated that with your own children, maybe them being out of the house, but also, them being away from you guys. Maybe Elizabeth, will start with you, and Kate, you can take it over after.
Yeah, I would say Jim was not homesick at all, honestly, which was really a nice feeling. I just felt like he's so happy whenever I talked to him. He's just like so enjoying himself. Yeah, for us, yeah, you miss them. They're just like you would if they went to college. The whole thing is not having them here in the same way. Um, but you know, I don't know, just for Jim. I mean, well, here's the thing. We, like you said, we're able to keep in touch so much more easily in this world now. It's not like, oh my gosh, bye, I won't see you or talk to you. We could text him. We could have a FaceTime when he wanted to have one. And that's such a nice feature. It keeps you feeling really connected to them. So we're lucky that, we have that ability. Like, I mean, as he was hiking up Machu Picchu, he actually took a video and sent it to us, as he was doing it. So, um, you really do feel like you can be really connected and a part of what's going on as much as they would like you to whatever extent they want.
Sure. Love that, Elizabeth. Kate, anything you'd add?
So I would say one thing Amelia did mention was that there were a number of kids on her group that had maybe done like extended summer camps through their life. So they had had that experience of being away from their families for an extended period of time. Amelia did not do that. And so it was her first time like really away from us for a long period, aside from a night or two at a friend's or something like that. But I would say that was probably a little bit of an adjustment for her. Where some kids it was, and maybe for the parents too, it was okay, this is like another summer thing that they're doing. Uh, but she did adjust. I mean, the big thing for us was the time change. We weren't working on a 4 or 5 hour train. It was like 14 hours, 16 hours. So if we did, I would say about every week to 10 days, we did like a FaceTime or a WhatsApp call. And then we would, through WhatsApp, text each other like silly things. There were pictures. She had done something cool. She would, just zip us a picture. So it was fun. Or if we saw something funny or silly or heard about something, we would, just kind of send that on to her. So I think it, it kept that connection going. So it wasn't as, even though she was on the other side of the, and she could have been at college 2 hours, a plane ride away still. But I would say that was for her, that adjustment. And sometimes you just want to be by yourself for a little while, and there's nothing wrong with that, because obviously you might have different personality types or different, some people might be a little, stronger personalities or a little more passive, and so sometimes you just need to, like in any situation, just kind of step away a little bit. So I thought she managed that well too when she needed to. So we never got a crying phone call. So
Yeah, unfortunately, that was just me, it seems then. But Kate, another piece I want to dig in a little bit more on in terms of that like socialization piece with her cohort, her other friends.
Mhm.
What did she tell you about that a little bit in terms of how she developed relationships with the other people over time on this experience and what that looked like even maybe now as well?
So she had she became very, very close friends with one girl. And that's the girl who came up from Texas. And then there was like another about 4 or 5 kids, and the 5 or 6 of them became like a really tight group. And they still went out and had fun together, but they really liked getting and doing all the experiences. Some people, they like that taste of freedom, and maybe were burning the midnight oil a little bit, which is totally normal. I would have done that when I was 18. But sometimes when you just have a certain experience happens and it brings you closer together for whatever reason, that maybe it's running through an airport together, or running to catch something, to do something, and or it could just be, somebody says something and you just start to laugh and you just have that bond, and that is just what it is. I would say Amelia is very good about ignoring the drama. So if there were personality things, which with 25 people, it's going to happen. She's not someone that, like, she'll remove herself from a situation if it's not her thing. So, but I saw somebody posted a question about her making it her be less homesick for college. So she went to college or goes to college in North Carolina. So I would say, in terms of like the home, it was probably the adjustment to college. As anybody going into a new situation, you were just trying to find your way a little bit, like figuring out how to get around campus and going to the dining hall, and fortunately she ended up with a great roommate, which was a good thing. And then she is good at finding her people with stuff that she likes, and she's good about searching out for things no matter where she is. So when she went to college, I would say the homesickness was more, it was, I would say, more the first couple of weeks as you're just trying to figure out your way, and figuring out where your classrooms are and everything. But I wouldn't say there was any big difference between whether she had started school in September or whether she had started in January in terms of that sort of adjustment. I think she would have had the same adjustment if she had started in September as she did, because she's at a big school. So it's there's just a lot going on. So
Appreciate that,
yeah.
Kate.
Yep.
Elizabeth, anything you would add on terms of that socialization piece on Jim, and his friendships that he's developed on the program, and maybe how that's
Yeah,
evolved?
after his 4-week program, he immediately, there's a young man from Indianapolis who came out to visit us, and he's really great. They had a really nice time, and he's definitely been in touch with, like, he's got a friend in Arizona, he's got a friend in New Hampshire, people out in California that he had met who live in the Bay Area, which is where he'll be in school. And so, he really was, even said, this is so wonderful. I have friends like all across the country now. And it's really true. They really do keep in touch. So it's great.
Mm-hmm. They do. Yep.
Love that. Okay, I want to also steal some minutes now for both of you to also brag about your children. I just want to, Elizabeth, can you just tell us again, like where Jim is going to college and like what he's studying and that piece as well?
Yeah, so he's going to the University of San Francisco. And so he right now is thinking he would like to major in psychology. And again, that's something that kind of solidified over this year. He was more in the just very undecided camp at the end of his senior year. So, yeah, that's what he's going to be doing, and he's really seems just so much more ready to go, and just and he's going soon because he's going, and they start early. So the orientation starts August 10th, so he's leaving August 7th, and like I said, I really just feel like this gap year, he took advantage of it. He really didn't. It wasn't just like a year kind of wasted year. It was a year of really growing, really learning, having these amazing experiences that he'll always remember and take with him.
Appreciate that. I also think it's interesting as well. We actually had a conversation with Duke University not too long ago on one of these sorts of webinars, and Duke is a school that actually invests heavily in gap years as well. They give tons of scholarship money for students just to use to any gap year program of their choosing, because Duke sees that the students who take gap years return to campus much more engaged in not only the academics but also in campus life and activities and making the most of their 4 years. But just a little aside of what you reminded me to throw in there. Kate, can you remind us again where Amelia is going to school and what she's studying?
Yeah, she is at NC State, go Pack, in Raleigh. So they have that friendly competition with Duke. But they made it to the Final Four. She became a basketball fan, which was kind of crazy. She's in college. Originally, she thought maybe biomedical engineering, but it looks like it will be chemical engineering with like a biomed kind of concentration. I don't really understand it, but that's what she's doing. And she's in the honors college. So she will do honors seminars, and they have, that was a nice way for her to also find her community when starting in January, because the honors college had a lot of activities, everything from, she loves theater, so they had chances to go to plays and dance things and hikes, and then she's also joined the improv troupe. So she's an improv kid, so she joined the improv troupe. Also got to meet all the fun, unique people that do improv, and she just went right back in. I mean, that's another thing. If your kid is going to maybe be starting in January and they're on, this is more specifically for like kids going into STEM sort of engineering, where it's a very, especially your first couple of years are pretty, you got to take this to take that. Our friend gave us some advice of what questions to ask the college of, how will this affect, will I be one semester off from everybody? Is intro to engineering offered both semesters or just the fall semester? So, kind of navigating those sorts of questions if that's the direction your kid is going in. So, and also asking about if they have, if they're on a scholarship for anything, if deferring affects the scholarship or financial aid. For NC State, that did not matter. They're very generous with AP credits, so a lot of her gen eds were covered. So she really was not behind starting in January. So she could probably still graduate in 4 years if she wanted to. So, but
Super insightful, Kate. Appreciate that. Thank you. Before we, I know there are also some questions in the Q&A I want to get into, but also want to be mindful of time as well. Would you guys also, I think it's super helpful, as parents to speak with the other, communicate directly with the other parents here as well. Any tips of advice or anything that you would say to everyone here that you think could be helpful for them to know who are in this decision-making discernment process, if, a gap year feels, right for their own children? Maybe Kate, we can start with you, and Elizabeth, you can finish it off.
Okay. Have them really think about why they want to do it. As an experience. I mean, if you just want to go and party and like that, then it kind of negates the experience of getting everything that is given to you. I mean, it's an honor to be able to do something like this. So think about it as, being able to grow as a person and not just use it as an excuse to not be in school or working or that thing. I would use it as, you're fortunate to have this opportunity to, see another part of the world or a bunch of different parts of the world. And I don't know, that's what I have to say.
Perfect. Thank you. Appreciate that. Elizabeth, anything you would add?
Yeah, I mean, just, I would say just listen to your children. What are their passions, because this is a chance for them to really launch into something. I mean, Jim was really passionate about Latin America. He didn't know why. He just wanted to learn about Latin America. It's going to lead him to something. He went there and he loves that culture. He loves learning the language down there, and he's just Spanish, and he's just it's propelling him forward. So whatever program is like lighting the fire, it's just such a, as Kate said, just a huge opportunity to really kind of get something burning there that they're just going to go with, which is really amazing to see.
Sure, Elizabeth, thank you.
I want to go on a gap year.
I know, me too. Sign me up.
Yeah.
Okay, I think there was another question just about specifically does EF have any programs, skill building focus, specifically supporting executive functioning and ADHD to help prepare students for college? We have nothing specifically designed in that manner. And actually what we would say as well is we accept a wide range of students, but always we want to make sure that this feels like a comfortable fit for them. So we're going to clearly outline expectations, and we always, there's always a good amount of being in, that zone of uncomfortability that is where you grow, but also sometimes it could be also a little too far in the deep end. We don't want the students to drown as well. So there's a healthy boundary that I guess to answer that question specifically, I think diving deeper into conversation with your gap year consultant kind of on a one-on-one basis is the best way to dive deeper into your own students' particular needs with that as well. Also, so another comment that we are in Boston, but our daughter goes to Fordham in the Bronx. Well, shout out the Bronx. I went to Fordham Prep, so we are a Ramily, as they say. Okay, other than that, I think that has addressed all questions in the chat. Kate, Elizabeth, I just want to thank you so very much, especially for taking time out of your busy Wednesday evenings to come and speak about gap years with us. Really thankful for all that. Thank you for everyone here taking the time to be here. And again, if following in touch with your gap year consultant is the best way to learn a little bit more about any one of these programs that we spoke about and diving deeper into the specifics of your own unique student as well. So without further ado, Kate, Elizabeth, again, thank you so much. Hope you all have a great evening and talk very soon.
All right. Thank you. Bye.